got next the lovely Saba. So it's a pleasure to talk to you. We've never met, have we? But I have been googling you a little bit, been stalking you somewhat. Don't be alarmed, all virtual stalking, so we should be fine. But you, I mean, you are, absolutely phenomenal. You are a author. You have written for some amazing publications, The Guardian, The Independent, and also magazines that I absolutely love, like Marie Claire and Cosmo. But you have written a book, and the book is called Made Possible. And I kind of just really wanted to start off with that. I think, what is the book about? I haven't yet read it, but I now feel like I need to go and get it on my Audible from Amazon as soon as we finish today. What is the book about, and what prompted you to write the book? Because I know that it's got a real, place in your heart, I suppose, from where it came from.
So it's Made Possible, and it's stories about success by learning disabled people in their own words. It's a bit of a mouthful of a title, but it's really important that we have the words learning disability and the word success on the front cover, as well as the fact that it's in people's own words. So the reason for the book, as you said, it is a very personal book because it's influenced by Rana, who's my younger sister. And Rana has a learning disability. She has Fragile X syndrome. And the reason I wanted to put this book together is because when we were growing up, it was really clear that although I might be asked that question, what do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to be? And we've touched on this earlier today, the idea of achievement or having your sort of future denied. That's really what happened to Rana, in that, somehow success didn't seem to be something that was relevant to her. There were no expectations. So that was the first reason. And it also grew from my journalism that you mentioned. So meeting amazing people like Shaun and all the people in the book, I wanted to do something that really shattered stereotypes about learning disability and questioned, who does success apply to, and why isn't it something that we expect of everybody? And the idea of doing it in people's own voices as well was purely because there's not enough of that. I think, you don't hear out in the mainstream media people with a learning disability talking about success, and you don't hear their own voices. So rather than me as a journalist doing an interview and then scurrying away and typing it up in my own words with my filter, it was very much, we have to have people's stories and their characters and their personalities coming across. And the book, it's brilliant. Obviously, it's funny. It's got swear words in it. It's about human beings. It's about
that's my kind of book.
It is. It's about and Shaun will, I know, talk about this. It talks about real lives. It's very relatable. So it's got stories about people's personal lives. Sex, relationships. It's got the challenging stuff. And I think the final point really is that at the moment, with everything we're going through with COVID, it's actually a really positive, uplifting and quite a joyful book. And we need that. We need that positivity.
And you've got your book proposal. This is what you've got to do when you start writing a book. You've got to get your idea. You've got to get your book proposal together. Then you've got to go and pitch it and go, this is what I want to write about. Please now give me some money so I can go away and do it. Was there any kind of doors closed immedately as soon as you said, this is my idea, and guess what? I want to talk about people with learning disabilities, and we're going to talk about sex, and we're going to talk about, we're going to say the F word in it, and it's going to be, authentic. Did you have anyone go, it's a bit niche, I don't really get it, or, I don't really think that will sell? Was there any of that?
There was. I think most people that I'm close to, that I discuss the book with, know me well enough to never dare say anything like that around me. But you're quite right that, I did have a couple of people say, you sure you want to put learning disability on the front cover? I was like, well, yes, because that's what it's about. Mm. The point of the book and the way it was produced, it's a crowdfunded book. It's a very personal project. So, I knew that mainstream. It's, let's be honest, I had to crowdfund it because I wanted to produce something that didn't exist. That I suppose, I hate this word mainstream, but traditionally you wouldn't see in a bookshop. You wouldn't see this book in the window because it's about something, it's not sexy, it's not fun. Well, it is. And now it is there. And Shaun's story and all the other stories are out there. So.
Oh, Shaun, come back. I was going to ask you a question. Come back, Shaun.
I'm here.
We'll just. Oh, Shaun, I'm here. Are we grabbing the book? See?
I got the book too.
Well, look at that. Shaun, and I've got to say, Shaun MBE, because we've not got to, brush over that. I really want an MBE, only because I want to put it on my passport so that I can get upgraded when I go on a flight, because apparently that's a real thing. I've not just made that up. Yeah, get it put on your passport, and you'll get first class. Yeah, I mean, if it doesn't happen, please don't blame me. Whoops. You are in this book as well. You featured in this book. I mean, I suppose we already know the question, but what does it mean to feel represented? What does it mean to be included? And kind of see a book like this on, in Waterstones? What does that mean for you?
I feel my experience can open doors for other people with learning disabilities, because people with learning disabilities got the right to be in jobs, to have proper relationships, to be living independence, because it's a human right to have a normal life like everybody else. Have you learned disability? We're no different than other people. We are human beings. And because we want the same rights like everybody else, we don't want to be treated as second class citizens. This book will open a lot more doors because of my experience from employment, around advocacy. I'm married, I live on my own, and I got kids. Because people think, even schools nowadays think if you've got a learning disability, you don't know what love is, you don't know what sexuality is, but we know.
I mean, I totally know what love is. I love my 2 cats. Giving up on men, so maybe you can give me some pointers of how to have a look, have a good solid relationship. We'll chat afterwards. But for me, representation is absolutely key. But also, what I really like about this book, it comes from a place of, you're talking about your sister, and I am a patron of a charity called Head to Head Theatre Company, and they do multisensory theatre for kids that maybe can't access theatre in conventional ways. But a lot of what they do is, involving siblings, and I think, a lot of the time we forget siblings. My sister absolutely hated me when I was younger. As soon as I was born, my sister was non-disabled. As soon as I was born, all the attention was on me. I was in and out of hospital, and she hated me. She hated me so much that she used to pick me up, put me in a cupboard, and go, "I've got to hide you in the cupboard," and then break an arm. We'll play hide and seek. And so I think it's really important. So, for you, Saba, as a sibling, what was it like for you growing up with a sister that has a learning disability?
I've not got a sister. I've got a brother.
You've got a brother. Both. This goes to both of you.
Yeah.
Shaun, I mean, what was it like for you? Did you have that confrontation growing up, or? Yeah,
it's just like me and my brother. We do love each other, but sometimes he used to get jealous of me because Mum was the part of me more, and it was that he used to get angry with me, and then when I was older, my brother moved in with me house because I was living on my own. I was struggling. It was before Kevin. My brother moved in. I thought it was my mum's idea. I thought it would work out, but it didn't work out with me and my brother. He took over. My paying my bills, doing my housework and everything. I felt like that's smart.
That codependency again, isn't it? And how about you, Saba? Did you feel that, to get that balance? It must be really difficult, to kind of be supportive, but then let your sibling be independent. And did you ever feel that when you were growing up with your sister?
Yeah, I think, I mean, before I answer that, I think what's really interesting is that both you and Shaun describe your experiences with your siblings, and they're so different. They're unique, you know, as they are for any person. And so my experience is also a little bit different. That I was 17 when my younger sister was born. And so my role was obviously as a sibling, but also because I was that bit older, I suppose I became more involved in her care and support quite early on. So I am not her parent, you know, definitely not. And she behaves very differently with me, as she would when we hang out together, compared to how she is with my mum and dad. But I think, you know, there certainly is a sense that it is, being a sibling is a very unique role, and it's both positive and negative. And so I'm the chair of a very small charity called SIB, small but mighty. Yeah. And so we support siblings of disabled people, adults and children. And within that, there's such a huge range of experience. You know, there are siblings who've really, really had it tough, and you know, what you described there with your sibling, and you can talk about it now and look back and, you know, laugh about it, but it's really tough, really tough. And now with coronavirus, obviously all sorts of other challenges coming up, and reasons why, you know, that sibling support isn't there, or the dynamic has changed, people are together more. So yeah, I think, you know, the bottom line is Ryan and I are sisters. That's the fact. And then she has a support need, but, you know, so do I. And there have been times in my life where, you know, she's supported me. I mean, she's so supportive with the book. And, you know, I think we were talking about resilience earlier, and I think there's something there as well, this idea that, yes, there may be a dependency, a codependency, but also there are positive things where the support isn't just a one-way street. So what Shaun described there about his brother perhaps taking over and being sort of too supportive and not enabling your independence, which is what you wanted, and which is what you've got now, Shaun. You know, as well as that, I think siblings have to realise that actually there's, you know, my sister can support me and can give me as much as I'm meant to be giving her.
I feel now me and my brother, I feel the power changed between my brother. I'm the older brother, he accepts that. He's not my dad. Yeah. He's my younger brother. He respects me now because he got a better understanding because he's married now, but he got a son. He got a learning disability. He got a better understanding. But he had said to me, he regretted what he did to me. We talked a lot about the past.
I think that's key, isn't it, really, having that conversation. And I know that only now, me and my sister, only in our 30s, were we able to have that conversation, you know, and it took that long. Shaun, I think last question to you, really, you know, if anyone, I mean, your activism is like amazing. You are so successful in what you do, and you know, you are the definition of a trailblazer.
Thank you.
For anyone else who has a learning disability, who maybe wants to get involved with activism, but thinks that they've had people tell them they can't, they shouldn't, they'll never achieve, which is, you know, sadly, this is still the narrative that we hear. You know, what advice would you give to anyone who's maybe not got the confidence you have now to take that path as an activist?
Talk to me about my experience. My dad said to me, you never have a job, you never live on your own, you never get married. 2 fingers to him. Because I have. I said, take no notice of people. You can do it. You can reach your goals. Because I reach my goal and other people can. Because they got a right to do everything they want and nobody can't tell them what to do.
Perfect. I absolutely love that. And Saba, what's next for you? Are you thinking of maybe writing another book, or if I could come along and wave a magic wand and give you, like, you know, a blank check and go and change the world? What would you see yourself doing, or have you got something magical bubbling behind the scenes?
I love the idea of another book, definitely. And in fact, Shaun and I were talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
He's very good at badgering me, is Shaun.
I
Very
am
good,
indeed.
in a good way, in a positive way. So yeah, I do want to do another book. I mean, for the moment, I'm really focused on trying to spread the message about Made Possible now. You know, we had to launch this thing right in the middle of COVID. In one way, it was terrible timing because bookshops were shut, we couldn't do events. But on the other hand, it has made all of the issues in the book about, you know, equality and rights even more sort of pertinent. So yeah, longer term, definitely another book. Be great to look at sort of family relationships and siblings somehow in that. But in the meantime, carrying on with the journalism, which kind of took a bit of a backseat while we were working on the book.
See, journalism is something that I fell into. I was told I couldn't spell when I was at school. I used to cheat on my spelling test. I used to have, you know, the old desk where you lifted them up. I used to put my head and have them written on a piece of paper. And then I started writing for the Metro and Possibility magazine. And now I'm like, okay, I'm kind of good at this. And I think, you know, particularly when you have a disability and maybe you aren't as mobile as you'd like, I find that, you know, writing can be very cathartic, very, you know, calming, and just to get out all that's sort of in your head. Particularly if you're maybe on bed rest and you can't physically get about your daily activity. So what would you give to anyone who's a budding journalist? What would be your tips on how to get involved and you know, how to, you know, build up your confidence in that area?
I think it's, you know, just the fact that believe that you have something to say, because actually everybody does. And I know that sounds really trite, but, you know, so often I think when I started writing, it was a case of sort of asking myself, okay, so who's in the story, whose story is it, you know, and who's telling the story. And actually everybody, absolutely, I believe, has that potential to represent themselves. They may need a bit of help now and then, they may fall into it, they may work really hard and suddenly it comes together. But I think, you know, just sort of to look more widely, we need a better representation in the media of disability and disabled people. And invisible disabilities, learning disability, any kind of support need. And that's not just writing, but actually it's the people making the decisions. So it's the people commissioning the articles. So, I mean, example would be, you know, I mean, today there's a spending review. I haven't watched the news. I've only read it. So I don't know if they've done this, but Vox Pops, you know, who's in the Vox Pops? Because things like COVID response, the furlough scheme, all of the vaccine news, that affects everybody. And, you know, media has to represent society, and society is made up of loads of different people. And I think there's something there about the diversity debate that we're kind of wise to the fact that race has to be represented, gender, sexuality, people with mental health needs, but actually diversity also includes disability. And if the media is doing its job, then it needs to involve everybody, both kind of in terms of creating the content, but being in the coverage.
Like myself, I'm bisexual. I found that information. I found out about that when I was 38. I did a proper education. I was a special school. They don't expect people like us having any relationship or any sex or knowing about your sex education. But what got me angry, I was depressed and down because I didn't understand my sexuality. It was very isolated. I told my mum with my friends apart, but she from another generation. She know what gay is, she know what transgender I got surprised about, but bisexual been over her head. And she understands it a lot better now because I told her who I am. She still loves me the same, no different. But I was terrified to tell my mum about it. But I'm proud because people like myself, all bisexual, got a learning disability. We want to let media know we are who we are. We are humans. We know different than everybody else. We got a voice, and you need to listen to us. We know what we want.
And I think on that note, my darling, that was the best way to finish this section. Thank you both for your time and your honesty. I really appreciated talking